Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of We're in Between, the podcast that discusses about every single episode of As Told by Ginger once a week. Last week we discussed about the Thanksgiving episode, 10 Chairs, and this week we're going to be discussing about the final episode of As Told by Ginger, the fourth TV movie called The Wedding Frame. This is the second out of the two episodes that has not aired on the US, but it was released on DVD. It was written by Emily Kapnick and Eric Casimiro, and in this TV movie, someone tries to sabotage Lois and Dr. Dave's wedding, which Dr. Dave's mother is planning by hiring Nikki LaPorte to play the role of Dr. Dave's old girlfriend. As Ginger is helping her mother plan the wedding, she realizes that she has commitment issues and begins to rethink her relationship with Orion and her old one with Darren. Carl and Hoodsie investigate the situation with Lois's wedding, while Noelle does the same on a much more accurate track. Also, Courtney's family loses all their fortune after Mr. Gripling is arrested.
All right, thank you guys so much for listening.
And we're in between.
That's how you do it.
Perfect.
We're professional voice actors.
Someone once told me the grass is much greener.
We have a lot of cool stuff planned for season 3.
Being proud of who you are no matter what you do.
You definitely see the characters progress a lot more. They start growing up.
And I think Ginger and Darren are endgame.
It is a masterpiece of an episode.
Oh, it's the cattiest moment in the history of television.
Trust me, everybody has been excited for our thoughts on it. Who's the girl in the pink capri?
It's Courtney, it's Courtney.
Someone once told me the grass is much greener on the other side.
And surprise everybody, we actually have ourselves a huge group discussing about the final episode with us, all of which who have been previous guests on our podcast. So we have back Melissa, the voice of Ginger. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
We have Aspen, the voice of Dodie.
Hi.
We have Jackie, the voice of Macie.
Hello, I'm the voice of Macie.
We have Kenn, the voice of Darren.
Hey, great to be back.
Still have a crush.
We have Liz, the voice of Courtney.
Hi.
And last but certainly not least, we have Eric, who co-wrote this episode and a lot of episodes of As Told by Ginger. So welcome back, Eric.
Hello. And it should be noted that I'm also the voice of a pimply teen at a food court.
Get those credits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the best background character in the entire show. Anyway, so right before we discuss about this episode, so Eric, since you wrote this episode alongside with Emily, what was the story behind it?
Well, we knew this would probably be the last episode of the series, and we thought, like, how do we give the craziest curtain call and bring all those relationships to a head, and also sort of face new beginnings, like, the losing of the doghouse and resolving, trying to lay attention in for Ginger and Darren, because we knew where we wanted to go with Ginger and Darren having been married and be together later. So we wanted to lay that tension in so you never knew where it would go.
Right. Now, I know for all of you, you guys each have your own individual stories about your experiences with recording the last episode. So, I guess we'll go around, a round table. So, Melissa, in the bonus podcast that we had with you, you told us that you were having a lot of emotions when recording the last episode.
I was having a lot of emotions, yes. I remember, crying, let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. It was really, really hard to get through it. It was such a special time, in my life and in the lives of so many people that were working on it. And it just suddenly was ending. And we were like, what? Wait, what just happened? So it was really, really hard for me. Beautiful, but hard.
Yeah. Aspen, what about you?
It happened so suddenly, I feel like. And
yeah, it did.
And Jackie, you and I weren't even in that episode very much, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
we weren't there a whole lot recording the very end. It would have been a mess too. But I remember I did not find out through the proper channels that we were being canceled. I found out through a casting director while I was in a booth in a callback. She had just given me like feedback on my initial audition, and then she was like, "Oh, and by the way, I just heard about Ginger not coming back. So sorry. Okay, let's go."
So
I did
wrong.
not book that job.
The most amazing thing, forgetting this episode, just generally with the show, was the aging of the characters. So that was always the headspace for me when you would do this sort of like, leap in age or just upping it a bit into they're a little more aware, they're a little more hip of things, So I remember doing this episode. I barely remember doing this episode, but I do remember thinking, is this it? Like, are we setting, is this it? Is this the age they will be forever? It was very sad. It was, and so many of us were going through personal business and relationships and pregnancies, and so it was bizarre to think that these children that we were playing were maybe just going to be at this permanent age. It was freaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I don't even think I did a record for this episode.
You were in it a lot. You were like one of the major parts in the episode.
Okay, well then that makes sense. let me back up then.
No, wait, maybe it wasn't you who recorded. Maybe it was like maybe you got a stunt voice actor.
Maybe you guys got the wrong guy. No, but I think I hardly remember the episode, but all I remember was that. No, here's the thing, because sometimes we would do records, and sometimes we wouldn't know what episodes they were for, because they'd bring us in and just, well, you're going to record for 3 different episodes today, and it's kind of all over the place, and here are the scripts, and you do your thing. And I remember hearing about they were doing the last episode, and in that episode, we find out that Ginger and Darren ended up getting married and having kids, and I just remember going, oh my gosh, and I think Melissa, I think you were the one that told me that.
Really?
And I just remember being like, oh, that's an amazing ending. That's really, really cool. That they did that for our characters. It's a nice
Well, right, and that's unspoken too, so that would have been easy to miss. Yeah.
Exactly, and so I don't remember doing any records for that particular episode, but I just do remember Melissa telling me how it all ends, and just remembering, I can't wait to see what that looks like, because it's gonna be really sweet.
Yeah.
And I did see the clip. And the first time I saw the clip was before we did the last episode of this podcast, I think.
Oh,
and I don't think I was able to watch the full episode, but I think I did see that last scene. And I just remember going like, oh, wow, that's really sweet. They did a really amazing job in that last little sequence. Definitely pulled a heartstring for me. So
yeah. Now, Liz, you play a major part in the second part of the in the TV movie, where things just go incredibly wrong for the Griplings. But we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, what was your experience like recording for the last TV movie?
I honestly don't remember recording it. I just don't. So I don't think I was in this was like a 3-parter, right?
Yeah, there's a 3-parter. Yeah.
Part. Yeah. I had like an emotional catharsis kind of thing with Ginger in the second episode, I think.
Yes.
But, yeah. That's just, and I only know that because I just watched it.
Why aren't you a bridesmaid?
No, she wasn't.
Courtney?
No, Courtney was never a bridesmaid. The last time that we see Courtney was in the bathroom where she's crying to Ginger about her being broke.
That's a serious rap on Courtney Gripling.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. Except for that last shot with me and Blake.
That's right. Yep.
In our pauper's clothing. At the wedding.
Yeah.
Well, it does make sense that the non-Foutley characters would have less of a memory of this episode, because it is so overwhelmingly about Lois and Dr. Dave's wedding.
Yeah, wish we could have gotten Lorraine and David to join us.
Oh man, that would have been nuts.
Oh, that would have been great. But it's worth noting, Liz's performance in this episode and Jennifer Coolidge, who plays Nikki LaPorte.
Oh, God.
I think every voiceover actress should be forced to cry and make you laugh at the same time.
That scream laugh. Oh my god.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And, oh my God, Jennifer Coolidge was brilliant in this.
All right. So I guess now after like over 10 minutes, I guess we can finally get things started. So the episode, I know.
Oh, that wasn't it?
You can edit, Patricia.
I know, I could if I wanted to.
I'm sure our listeners are far more interested in what the people involved have to say than our plot summary.
That is true. I guess you're right. They're like, why are you talking about this episode? I want to hear what they have to say. But anyway, so yeah, it begins with Ginger and Orion together, and Ginger is trying to make sure that everything is perfect for the wedding coming up. And Ginger is throughout this throughout parts 1 and 2 of this TV movie, she's afraid of commitment. Even though she's excited for her mom getting married, she's sort of afraid of her relationship with Orion because she had the breakup with Darren, and it really devastated her a lot. And now she's questioning about this guy who's been with me ever since the episode Detention. Should I give him a chance? I don't want to get my heart broken. So we have that, and we have Dodie and Macie talking to Ginger about if Ginger is actually afraid of commitment, and Ginger's not really sure about that. She even says a really funny line. It's like, I can't even go far for Orion so much as like splitting fries or something. So we have I guess skipping over a little bit, I guess. Oh man, I really need to. We need to talk about Nikki LaPorte. So, who came up with this? Seriously, who came up with this?
Nikki LaPorte.
Yeah, who came up with this idea?
This was a lot of conversation between Emily and I, and I think she came up with the name originally, and we just thought, let's push it. Let's try to go as far as we can with the series finale. That said, it never aired, so we may have gone a little bit too far.
Yeah, I mean, how many Nicktoons do you know?
They freaking drug Lois.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
I like the drug scene.
I know. I promise you. The things we got away. I couldn't believe we got away with Nikki LaPorte really being Nicholas, right? I mean, it's with those yanks over his bald head. I mean, it was just so. We wrote it, and then the more, it kind of, how this happens, you want to go out with the bang, and you want to make it as big as it can be, and you think, okay, well, let's see how far Nickelodeon will let us go.
I don't know how many letters or complaints that you've gotten, but I remember when I first saw the reveal of Nikki LaPorte, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, Nickelodeon allowed this show to feature a transvestite.
Well, it's kind of a trope in a way. And I don't know, I loved the idea that you guys created this like trailer trash, like crackhead looking character on As Told by Ginger. I thought that was awesome.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, she's just like bottom of the barrel trash, and you have a mysterious call from the Silver Fox saying that they want her to break off the wedding between Lois and Dr. Dave. And oh my God, just the peaks that Dr. Dave's mom goes through is like I said before, this is at the point in which it's like Miranda and Mipsy bad, in which they're wanting to break off a family apart. They want to ruin a relationship between a couple who truly love each other, all for the sake of, oh, I don't like you. So, man, it's rough.
Well, the one thing Emily and I loved about this, as it went along, we couldn't believe we were getting away with the kind of negatively painted mothers, because I think we were damaged by our own crazy experience. But you think of Joanne Bishop is, wow. She's one of my favorite characters to write in the world. But man, that woman is really tight. And and Dr. Dave's mom, Mrs. Dave, was pretty awful as well,
to say the least. Yeah.
So I guess continuing on, so we have Carl and Hoodsy's plot, and it starts off with them emptying out their doghouse, and eventually they start deciding that we're going to destroy it once and for all, which we talked about last week, in which in 10 chairs, the turkey swallowed the petrified eyeball, so now the doghouse is gone.
R.I.P.
Yes, R.I.P. doghouse.
To the eyeball, even. That was, we've been tracking that the whole series. I was like, is that it, Patricia? Is the eyeball gone now?
So yeah, I guess this is another step towards for Carl ending childhood, because we've talked about in the second half of season 3 how, you know, Carl is trying to no longer be a bad kid, and he's trying to do better within himself, and you know, the petrified eyeball is gone, and now he's destroying the doghouse, and he wants to move over to bigger and better things. So the moment that he destroys the doghouse, his dog Monster actually wakes up and he starts running towards where the noise came from. And so now we go over to Carl and Buddy, who are putting up the for sale sign, and lo and behold, here comes Buzz from Miss Foutley's boys. Oh God, I already talked about how I feel about Buzz.
I'm glad we got to see him again. For me, like, looking for fan service in the final TV episode of As Told by Ginger, I wanted to see every character you guys could throw at me, and so I loved that we got to see him again.
Not to mention the background characters in the wedding. Like, we see Dr. Fawn Feelings, and we see Crazy Floyd.
Of course.
So yeah, I guess I want to talk about a few scenes for this particular one. So Eric, you were the one who wrote the "You Bounce" song, and you have that little scene recreating Titanic, except it's in reverse, so that you know, we have Ginger drowning and Darren as Jack rowing his boat away. So yeah, I know you were hinting on that in our interview with you. So what was that experience like, writing the song?
It's that balance. You want to write something that's a little cheesy from TV, but at the same time, it has to be a little cool. So that one was a tough one. It's hard to say. Like, you just the songs, we knew what it had to do structurally in the story. So that the actual song kind of came out easily. It's just was more how far we went with the parody of Titanic, which seems like this came much later than the movie Titanic, so it's odd that we referenced it. Maybe it was already so tired it felt right to reference it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. The movie came out in 97. The TV movie would have, I think it was made in like 2002 or 2003, so yeah, I guess at that point, maybe some people thought it was overrated.
Wasn't Titanic still in the theaters 5 years later?
Also, the finale of Harry Potter, with them all being old, you know, you can't help but think of the same thing here. But I think we predated Harry Potter, right?
Let's see. I guess so. If it would have came out in 2002, 2002, 2003. The first movie came out in 2001. So yeah, you guys predated it.
So Harry Potter ending in the book copied As Told by Ginger, right?
Yes, it did.
Well done, guys.
Did it too,
Well done.
baby.
And I always, Harry Potter has always been a big part of my life, or at least growing up it was, and I did not like the epilogue as a kid or as an adult, and I thought As Told by Ginger handled it much better, where I even wrote that in my notes, that it hints at without spoon-feeding you or telling you every single detail. And, you know, I don't know what the names, like if one of the kids' middle name had been Maud or something ridiculous like that. It's like, we don't need something that heavy-handed. We just need to see what the future is going to be and then fill in the rest with our imaginations.
But you see that Darren and Ginger are together, right?
Exactly. You do.
Yeah,
That's great.
And who's got babies?
Yeah, they have a child together.
They have a child together.
And it's
We didn't name its gender.
Boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks like a boy to me. I just scrolled through YouTube and I saw that, and I
And Dodie is married to Chet, right?
Yes.
How do we know that? How do we know that?
It's
They met in
perfect.
business school.
Hey, you guys, you know what? A thing I remember so much about this show was that I think this was the first interracial couple in Cartoon Land, you know?
That's interesting. I think you're right.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I mean, that was at the time I was watching a lot more cartoons.
Right.
But now, I mean, you see it a lot more now, but back then it was kind of a neat...
Yeah. Well, I mean, the beautiful thing about that, Melissa, was that, you know, it was just so... It was done in such a natural way, and there was never really any... thing thrown up like, oh, let's look and let's talk about this. No, it was just super natural, which I love.
Totally natural, beautiful.
No, the only heavy issue was my favorite episode was when Darren gets his braces off.
Right.
It's like, oh my God, what's happening? Who are you? I love a good makeover.
So, like, we talk about Ginger and Darren ending up together. And I know, Kenn, in our interview with you, we talked about how Darren changes a lot over the years, and some fans, you know, I think have their issues with that, and I personally don't, because I think everyone, when they go from middle school to high school, either becomes better right away or worse right away. And I think Darren becomes worse. I think he it's the gained confidence of going to high school or maybe going to college that change people, and I think he has to re-find who he is again, and I buy that he does at the end, and I buy that he goes back to Ginger, kind of realizing everything that he did wrong over their high school years.
Of course, you know, that's the character arc that I think is so beautiful. That, you know, he was just this good kid who never got any attention paid and had, you know, all these loving family and friends around him, and then he became the hot guy and he lost his mind. Right?
As one does. That's
one same.
Become a hot guy, lose your mind.
I'm still losing my mind, as you saw.
You come back to Earth, and then you had to sort of make atonement for all the craziness that you did before, especially to the people that you love.
Right.
So I think they did that in a beautiful way.
Absolutely. And Liz, we have to talk about the scene in which the Griplings get broke. So when Mr. Gripling gets arrested, and this is the first time that we ever see his face, because he was always not around, or we hear his voice from the episode TGIF. So we saw him being arrested because he was involved in some shady deals, and their assets were liquidated, and the family goes broke, and everybody is devastated. So now this has been a trope in a lot of other cartoons in which the rich character goes broke in this one episode, but then they end up being rich again. But no, in this case, she's broke for good.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, they get right. We end up like trying to rent or buy Ginger's old house.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, so that's what happens, because
we have to move out of our manse.
Yes.
And so there's this whole thing with Carl and the real estate agent, and how we're gonna. Blake comes over and asks if they can maybe rent to buy.
That scene is hysterical.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, so we can assume it's kind of funny that, you know, Casey and I, we were talking about the reversal in which, you know, Courtney was popular and Darren was a geek, but now Darren is popular and nobody cares about Courtney. So it's funny that
it's not fair.
I know. And trust me, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to let you know this. A lot of people were really upset about this scene, Liz. They said, "Oh no, Courtney doesn't deserve this. She's good. She doesn't."
That's how I felt. I thought it was really kind of terrible.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
But the arc of the family-wise, it makes sense. Oh, and Liz, you had one of my favorite lines of this episode where Courtney is crying in the bathroom, and Ginger says, "Why are you crying?" And Courtney says, "Oh, it's because, you know, this other girl in my class straightened her hair, and I was thinking of doing that." Ginger says, you already wear your hair straight. And she goes, "Oh, it must be something else that's upsetting me." Like she hadn't even thought about it.
Courtney needed that. Courtney needed to be a real person. I guess. Moving into the house that good old Ginger doesn't need anymore is perfect for her.
Well, I think so too. And we were talking before about, what was Courtney going to do with the rest of her life? And I was saying that, maybe this is her chance, to change and do something useful.
Yes.
The Peace Corps.
I think it's a big opportunity for her.
Yeah, and even Liz, we even talked about this on the podcast, that you were thinking that maybe Courtney should become a nurse because she was looking up to Lois in the episode Mommy Nearest, and so maybe she followed in her footsteps.
That's what I would like to think.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know how much time we need to spend, like, dissecting the plot of the wedding, but we should at least talk about it for a little bit, I think. Like, the vows are incredible. I thought that whole scene was so beautifully written, and I thought that the Lois talking to the main three best friends about how you guys are like my adopted daughters, that scene was so masterfully done.
Oh, yeah, and hands down, probably my favorite Lois and Ginger moment in the entire series is when Lois is writing her vows and Ginger is reading them, and she tells Ginger about how that we're not put in this world to live perfect lives, we're meant to make mistakes. I'm like, yes, that is what I really need right now.
This show actually helped me so much. In my own life, like what you wrote, Eric, and what Emily wrote, it was beautifully done. And it was so well-timed for me, too. Regardless of the fact that I wasn't in junior high anymore. It was so beautiful. And it just, like the entire season, well, all the seasons, they really helped me. They were written so beautifully. And it actually allowed me to sort of relive my horrible dark ages of junior high and early high school. And
I think that was the true
and see it from a different perspective.
That was kind of true of all of us writing them, really, Melissa. It was really that's what made this show so interesting. Is Nickelodeon was allowing us to get near topics that I often talk about it today because I'm still slogging shows, and it's interesting that it's impossible to tell stories with the kind of truth we did on Ginger today. Everyone's much more afraid of those kind of stories. And they're, at the same time, they wonder why kids are migrating to YouTube to watch vloggers who talk about real things like bodily image and gender identity and all those things that, and Nickelodeon owes a big credit for this show. One, for greenlighting it in the first place. On the pitch, it's welcome to the dollhouse for Nickelodeon. And secondly, for allowing us to do what we did with this show, which was really kind of amazing. It's more amazing now in hindsight than it kind of was at the time. We just kind of thought this was the way the world was going. Yeah, kind of didn't, sadly.
So can I interrupt and ask, like, I know you guys are probably going to get to this at the end of the podcast, but can I ask?
Ask whatever you want.
What has happened? What's happened since then, and how come we see so many other shows coming back and this one's not? Is it too real?
Oh, that is an excellent question, and I'm going to give you my hypothesis. I don't know. For some reason, it's been Klasky Csupo is still kind of an interesting point in right now, in which they're still in business, but at the same time, I don't know. For some reason, the rights to As Told by Ginger is a little bit iffy. Every single show from Nickelodeon that Klasky Csupo has produced, they're out on DVD. I take it that maybe since As Told by Ginger was not like the major priority for Klasky Csupo compared to Rugrats, maybe they haven't considered like another TV movie, because there is a lot of them now. Like we just saw the Jungle movie a while ago, and there's going to be Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe if more demand for As Told by Ginger comes along, and maybe if there's a proper complete series on DVD release, then I wouldn't be surprised if we would get a possible TV movie.
Well, I should correct you, Patricia. They actually, the show is actually owned by Nickelodeon.
Oh, it is.
We produced those shows, all of those, including All Grown Up, whilst under an overall deal that was part of a 5-year deal that was made with Nickelodeon. So it's a curious question why they haven't rebooted a lot of the titles. I know there's been lots of talk about Rugrats, but that's a really hard one to reboot in the world today, considering what it kind of was, and they may go one by one for that matter. Who knows?
That's a good question. I mean, if personally for me, if I were to see a TV movie of As Told by Ginger, I could see it either one of two ways. Number one, it would probably be a mid-quill, kind of like continuing the story of Ginger and her friends in high school and maybe leading up to that last scene. Or it could be just a complete reboot, starting the story over from scratch and maybe implementing some modern things to it. I don't know.
I know it's weird to watch right now where there's not a single cell phone in anyone's hand except for Courtney's.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange, right?
Yeah, exactly.
With the antenna sticking out, too.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the cool part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, I really love not seeing them with cell phones. I really love seeing what life was like before that.
Yeah, we wouldn't need dialogue. There would
Kids
just
actually
be
communicating.
Right, exactly. There would just be cell phones and everyone's staring at them. There wouldn't be any scene dialogue. It'd be perfect.
Right.
Well, there's one aspect of As Told by Ginger that I think is becoming a thing again in media, and that's the sort of lack of irony in it. Like, there was an era of TV where it seemed like everything involving kids was all like, no one liked anything. It was very based in the negative, and like Ginger has passions and she's not embarrassed of them, and she does them. And I think, like, I don't know, shows like Stranger Things come to mind, shows where it's like, it's about people, or like Parks and Recreation, it's about like people liking each other and not just not getting along. So I think in a way some of that stuff is coming back.
Like actual heartfelt love for people.
Yes, exactly.
Fake news.
What an interesting trend.
Yeah, where your parents actually have something really worthwhile to tell you and can teach you about life.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess, I mean, there's so many things to talk about this TV movie, like the layers and the plot twists involving with Nikki LaPorte approaching Dr. Dave, saying that she's an old college friend, Jonas looking from the background and taking the pictures, Carl and Hoodsey breaking over to both Nikki and Jonas's place and seeing all the little bits and pieces, and then Noelle comes back, whom I haven't seen Noelle in ages. And yeah, it's just, everything about it is just so insane. It's wonderful. And I guess I know we can delve really deep into that, but with all of you here, I want to talk about Casey, should we talk about the last scene?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything in all this. Well, yeah, I just love that Noelle gets to be the one that kind of saves the day at the end. Something about that made sense. Like the way she's pitched to the audience over the show. It's like, yeah, I believe that Noelle would be the one to come in and go, everyone wait!
And what makes that perfect, it was voiced by Emily, the creator,
Right.
so it's so perfectly symmetric.
Yes, and so beautifully voice acted that whatever faux accent that is cracks me up every time.
Well, I think it was her fake Hungarian accent.
Right, it's like got some German in there, yeah.
Oh, man. I mean...
I forgot that Emily did that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this...
Singing that gospel song in the wedding. I want that like as my ringtone.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So good.
I love Brandon Higsby. I like
me
he's one
too.
of those demented little children that I just adore. And,
Where did that idea come from? It was so good.
I would give him a song whenever. I think I released her hand because I loved him so, and I gave him the job as the singing bunny because I
That's good.
Yeah, and this monkey, Mr. Licorice. Everything about
I know, I
it.
love him too.
Yeah.
One of my faves.
Yeah. Brandon singing the song, Mussorgsky playing the organ.
Oh, it's perfect.
I know.
I just love that Brandon is this unapologetically flamboyant child. Like, you don't see that a ton. And yeah, he's the butt of the joke a lot, but he isn't always, and it seems more like a celebration of him in the end than like making fun of him.
Yeah, I think that's
Well, I hope he never really made fun of him. The goal was always that Hoodsey was always like half intrigued by the act, half not. Like,
right.
He was always afraid Carl was going to suddenly change allegiance to Brandon. So
Right.
I mean, Carl kind of did change allegiance to Brandon. If the episode, what was it? Next Question, in which they're singing the Teen Seal Girl song.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that we haven't really talked about, Hoodsey's role becomes a lot more diminished in season 3, and in the second half at least, and I think that's fine, because what seems to happen, all these characters are changing. They're like, if they were in between to theme song drop, now they've sort of they're becoming whatever they're going to become, and Carl doesn't need Hoodsy as much in the second half, so why force him into everything? So I think I totally bought that, even though Hoodsy is probably my favorite character on this show. I thought it made sense that Carl relies on him less.
Yeah, that final season, it is they do evolve a bit. It gets into more about the family of Ginger and maturing and Lois' new love and moving on and all that, and boyfriends for
I really want to just watch the whole thing over from start to finish. I want to have like a
We just did.
marathon.
We spent this whole year watching every single episode.
So can we ask you guys then? We should ask you the question.
Yeah, good idea, Eric.
Can we ask you what about this show has inspired you guys to work so hard and put so much time to dissect these shows and go through all the trouble of finding us, and it's flattering but it's really, I'm curious at the same time.
It's pretty weird. Yeah, it's pretty weird. I'll admit that. So the sort of backstory. So my friend from high school, Ashley, and I, who might have been on some of your interviews, we do a podcast about Nicktoons in general, and then we met Patricia online through like the Twitterverse, like Nick Twitter, I think. And Patricia came on our show and we did a As Told by Ginger one, because we were saying we haven't watched a ton of it, and we loved it so much we were like, why don't we just do all of this? And then Patricia found you guys, and here we are a year later almost now.
I've always been an advocate for the show. I've watched it since the very beginning, and everyone around me just didn't understand why. So I still kept to the show as far as I could. I've already told this story many times before, but the last episode I saw on TV was Fair Too Cloudy because I moved over to the Nicktoons network. I didn't have it as my cable provider back then. And when I saw this episode, The Wedding Frame, I saw it in 2010 on DVD, and I hadn't seen the other episodes, and they weren't uploaded on YouTube or anything. And I was looking at it, and I was like, what's going on? Who are these people? So I had to, so basically, like, during that year, I was, like, in a kick to rewatching all the episodes again, and that was when I did my very first review on it on my blog. But then the 15th anniversary of As Told by Ginger was happening in 2015, and I dedicated an entire, that was 2 years ago. Oh, holy crap.
Wow.
Anyway, so I dedicated an entire month to the show. I compared the pilot to the TV series, which, again, Kenn, thank you so much for watching that. Then I did my top 15 favorite episodes. I did a 42-minute long video on why I think it was a groundbreaking yet overlooked Nicktoon. So, yeah, I know.
That was a great video, though.
Oh, right. I missed this one. I got to find that one. All right.
Yeah, that one sounds good. I need a link to all of these.
I'll give you the playlist when I'm done.
What's been extra fun about this is the weekly commenters, because I just upload directly to iTunes for my stuff, but Patricia posts them on YouTube, and so we get comments from people. And I will say tread gently into them because fans have lots of feelings. But it was cool that a lot of people watched every episode along with us, and we get anywhere from like 10 to 30 comments every week from different people who have followed us, now for almost a year.
Yeah, we've had people.
You know what I thought was funny was someone commented on me and like how I sang originally on the theme song, and they're like, geez, she sounds terrible. She sounds like a kid singing. I'm all, that's exactly what they're telling me, Melissa, you're a great singer. Please, you have to be worse. You have to be worse.
We've tried to dispel that myth. We've tried to help. Be like, Melissa can sing, guys. Everyone leave her alone.
I think, as Aspen will agree with me, you have to be a really good singer to sound really bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true. And some of my fondest memories of the show were all of us trying to dumb down our singing voices in the booth.
Totally.
I always loved that when when there'd be a musical number, and we'd have Aspen and Melissa doing their thing, and they'd be like, working really hard to sound sort of like a human. And I'd be like, step it up a game,
Yeah.
We would be remiss not to talk about Jared's music too throughout the whole series and on this one. all of Ginger's, like, quote-unquote grunge music, I don't know if he tried to do this, but it's like a time capsule of the era you guys recorded, you know? It sounds like 2002, like, alt-rock.
Yeah, I even know the song "Splinter in My Heart." I think that song actually makes Mark tear up a bit.
Is there an album that just has, or a...
No, I wish there would be.
Songs?
That would be amazing.
They're
We can put
fun.
in the theme song. We can put in the Courtney theme song. We can
Little
put
Seal
in
Girl.
Little Seal Girl. Some the
Oh my
Camp
God, yeah.
Copper Color
I
Ponies.
wanted to make like the it's Courtney, it's Courtney. I want to
Yeah.
make that,
Girl in the pink capri.
I want to make that my ringtone so bad. I love that one.
Well, you'll hear at the beginning of this, after we all said we're in between, it's in our theme song now, that it's you, Liz, singing It's Courtney.
Yeah, it's in the theme song actually. Season 2's opening was Aspen singing the Camp Capri song.
Yep.
Yeah.
just for a split second.
I woke up singing that Aspen on my birthday.
Oh,
I did. It was just in my brain.
You're welcome.
Mouse
And we're so
or
proud.
something.
We loved singing that song. That was one of my favorite songs to sing in my
Definitely.
I remember
back a
that
couple
so well.
I know.
I love it.
That's great.
yeah. Anyway, so let's see. Going over to the final scene. So I really wanted to just dissect this a little bit. So, long story short, Dr. Dave's mother reveals that she was the one who sabotaged the whole thing, and the wedding continues to go through. And then we have that final scene in which Ginger is narrating, but she's more adult, and we've realized, this is Ginger actually grown up, and she's actually reading the book at a book reading.
Oh, and real quick, Patricia.
Yes.
When I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, so that's not Ginger, but I know that voice. And I was like, oh, it's just Melissa's normal voice. That's what's happening.
I had to age it up a bit, and it was funny.
Right.
I remember during that session, we were trying to decide how much older I should go. And it was like, are you in your 20s? Are you 25? Are you this? So there was like 2 or 3 different variations on that. It was interesting to hear like where they took me.
Yeah. Now I've always wanted to know this ever since I first saw this, but I am so curious. What would the other characters sound like if they were older?
Oh, that's a good question.
So, Aspen,
I think
Go ahead.
I think Darren would have Invisalign. Right, Darren?
So what would that sound like? He'd have just like a slight, like ever so
A sibilance.
slightly,
He'd have a-
like slightly sibilance, like
Yes, exactly.
but way deeper, so he can talk about,
Yeah.
when Ginger and I got married, we had a beautiful baby. I can't do the sibilance. Right? Trying to create this character on the spot.
Sounding just like how you all do now.
Right. Yeah.
That's so cool.
I know Macie would be like, she'd go
Oh,
up to...
hopefully she had surgery.
No, she would go up to Ginger after the reading and be like, that was really, really wonderful. I'm just so sorry Courtney couldn't be here, but she's back at the apartment making a stew. That would be great.
Oh, I love that.
Amazing.
And I predict Hoodsie would have sounded exactly the same, like the testicles would have never dropped.
Well, I can't get over the character design for his dad, that it just looks like Hoodsie but older.
Yeah,
So funny.
Aspen, how would Dodie sound like now that she has Chet as her husband and she has a daughter?
Yeah, I can't imagine her sounding much aged up. I always imagined that she would end up like super high-powered executive, like in the business world, that was like a caffeinated workaholic with not a lot of real close friends. Like she never really sorted out the social issues that she had. But I imagine her just kind of speaking like this, like she doesn't really ever sound like she gets stuff done.
Totally.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And Liz, I know that Courtney doesn't show up in the final scene, but how would she sound like?
I just think she'd be a little more relaxed, but I don't really think change all that much.
Yeah.
He's probably a
medical marijuana.
I think she'd have to go from you went from shopping at Bloomingdale's to like Nordstrom Rack, and you're okay with that.
Well, I love that you slipped in your theory, Jackie, that Courtney and Macie end up together.
Love it. Totally. Kaz, I'd support me on that. I think that would be so the way it would go.
So where would Courtney be at? Would they be at their Montreal home, or would they be at their Paris home?
No, I think they live in Cambridge and
Cambridge. Nice.
Yes, because Courtney
Cambridge,
would
Massachusetts.
Yes,
and
Courtney
work at the library.
Oh, nice.
Right? And Courtney would be a huge academic.
Oh, nice.
Totally.
Who? Yeah. Courtney. I think after losing the money, she found her real calling, which is being so smart.
Okay.
And they all like flew back to sheltered shrubs or whatever.
Yeah, I kind of imagine that, even though that they're all together, I kind of imagine that it's kind of like similar to this, in which maybe they're all doing their own separate things, and they haven't, they spoke to each other on and off, but maybe they haven't gathered up together in so long, and maybe this book reading is a great opportunity to, see Ginger reading off her book and talking about her life or what she was like when she was a kid.
I was looking for Courtney in the audience in that last scene, and I didn't see her.
Yeah. Well,
she's back at the apartment making stew. She's making stew. She learned how to cook.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
And I think I was very supportive.
Yeah, not to get too meta here, but if the wedding frame was made in 2017, would it have been a Google Hangout such as this?
Eric, can you talk to us about Emily's kind of position on why the show had to end? Because she told me something a long time ago.
I don't think it really, we were getting to a point where we told a lot of stories. It was also an era where Nickelodeon was making some really deep analyses and metrics about how many episodes of any show they needed. And they learned that they were actually able to survive on 60 shows because kids would rewatch them, and by the time they had rewatched them enough cycles, they were older than they were aging out of Nickelodeon. And remember, there was that. It was after 9/11. Sadly, the economic collapse there caused a big examination within Nickelodeon, and it wasn't, not untrue. They were going to 150, 200 episodes of a lot of other shows unnecessarily. Even Thornberrys, I think we went up to 120. And it was a time, I think it may have been that Emily also was ready to do something else. She was certainly sought after for other things. She's an awesome writer. So I think she in fact, that was towards the end of Ginger, she did an amazing pilot that I don't think ever went, called Wienerville. And it was hilarious.
Wait, Wienerville as in like the variety show Wienerville?
No, it was a sitcom and a single camera with Fred Willard, and they shot it. And it was really good. Really, really good. Anyway, so that's kind of, as I recall, how it sort of went down.
Yeah, I think also Mark told me when we were having him as a guest that 2003, 2004 was around the time in which a lot of people from Klasky Csupo were leaving to do other things. Like, this was kind of like when Klasky Csupo were starting to, like, slow down with their production with a lot of their shows. Because even Mark told me it wasn't a coincidence that 2004, Rocket Power, Rugrats, The Wild Thornberrys, and Ginger all ended at that same year.
Yeah, I think we did this show in 2003, and I remember distinctly because I had met Valerie Harper, who was a TV hero of mine, in an airport in Boston in January of that year on my way home for Christmas. And I helped her out because she needed a phone and whatever. And I told her she was my hero. And then I wanted to have her do a voice in a show. And when we were thinking about Myrna and Mrs. Dave's posse, I thought, oh, great, I get to have her. And I actually recorded her on my 40th birthday. I remember. That was like the dream of dreams.
Wow.
And it was around that time that I think... yeah, that was a big shift for sure. And I think Emily had already, or may have already been doing the Wienerville pilot then.
Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess if you guys have any other final thoughts about any of your memories working on the show or about this particular episode, then yeah, you can say it, and then if not, then we can just go over to our ranking for the last time.
Oh, pressure's on.
Well, I just want to say it was an amazing experience working with all of you guys, and it was a creative experience that I'll never forget, and hope to have more of those again.
It was a show for me like
Same.
any other show I've ever done. It was unbelievable. It just touched my life and my heart in a way that no other show has. And it will always remain like the perfect animated show to me.
Well, I think it went against all the other shows in the sense that, you know, doing other cartoons, they are shows that kids would just watch again and again on a loop because they tend to be aimed for younger kids, and it's just more of the same. It's comfort food. Whereas this, it was more of an evolving show. It was more like a Grey's Anatomy. You know, it's like, ooh, what happens now that couple's broken up and this person's aged? I mean, I think that probably, I mean, I have no idea about how it all ended, but I would imagine that they were probably thinking they were going to outage their audience if they were heading into high school and scenarios like that.
Yeah, but I also think though that it appealed to a younger audience.
Yeah,
was looking up. You know, like what's happening in my life? What, you know? Let's look at the teenagers. Let's, you know,
right.
All I know is that I don't think I've never had more fun going to work. That's been going on than working on this show.
Yeah, I have to say,
no,
Liz,
it was so much fun.
Liz,
so much fun.
Liz, your Macie impression is amazing, by the way.
Thank you. I think we all have a good Macie impression.
I love Macie.
Lurking within us.
Something really cool that I found is when I've run into people that were fans of the show when they were tweens and now they're in their 30s.
Yeah.
It's so much different than just being a fan of a show when you were a kid and having nostalgia about it. The people that come to me now that are like, wait, you were in that show? They almost get teary. Like they have this really emotional attachment to the show. Like it helped them through their life, and they'll freely admit to logging on to YouTube and still watching the episodes now as adults.
For sure.
I don't know any other show that happens with.
And I have to say, at my vintage, I've now produced more than 500 half hours of television.
Wow, that's amazing.
And these are still like the 65 half hours that I most cherish and I'm most proud of. That because it did something that no one else was doing, and it did touch those people. And every now meet someone who loved it so, and you see it in their eyes, as you just said. It's really moving because you're like, wow, this was something we were hardly on the radar in the world, but yet we made such an impact, which was totally great.
You guys, can I tell you the craziest thing that happened?
Yes.
I'm not sure if I told you this, Patricia, or not, but I was in Africa on a mission trip in like 2006 or something, and someone recognized me as Ginger.
What?
Remember how the artists would come in and they would draw our facial expressions and stuff?
Yeah.
And I was speaking to somebody, and she said, I've seen you. I know you, but you had red hair.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and it somehow it played somewhere in Africa, and she recognized me from my facial expressions and from my voice, and we finally figured out it was us told by Ginger.
That's amazing.
God.
That is rad. That's
and
super cool.
The second thing I have to tell you guys, I know some of you know this and some of you don't, but you almost lost me in 2001. Did you know that?
I didn't know until I heard your podcast interview.
Yeah, so I was in a really, really crazy car accident in 2001, and I almost died. And not only that, but I got electrocuted, and a telephone pole fell on top of me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then this was all during our show, like the height of it. And I lost my voice completely, burst a blood vessel on the vocal cord, and I had to go in. I know this is nuts. This is going to be a book someday. I got sent to this woman named Dana Klein in Beverly Hills, who completely saved my career and my life, really. Because I had to relearn how to talk. And so every week, it was as told by Ginger. Every week I would get the script. Remember, they would send it to our homes. And I would get the script. I'd bring it straight to Dana, and she'd tell me how to speak through the horns. Are you kidding? And I couldn't tell anybody, because you and I all know, that if you say you're sick or anything, they'll replace you in a heartbeat.
Wait, did our casting director know this?
No, nobody knew.
Wow, you're amazing. Wow.
My agents didn't know, so I kept it all a secret, and I relearned how to talk because I love this show so much. I'm gonna cry. I was like,
well, we couldn't have done it without you, for sure, sure.
So I did it. I made it through, and I'm still going, and I really.
So what is she? A speech language pathologist? Is Dana Klein?
Yeah. Wow. She worked with everybody. That's like, she saved. It was amazing, and I literally. Right around that time, it's interesting. I should go watch the episodes and see.
To see if there's
what happened, if there's a change.
What episode was that? Like,
I don't know, but the irony is, when my voice did come back, like 3 weeks later, like I had to take 2 to 3 weeks off the show. We had one breaking week anyway, but when it came back, guess how it came back? Really, really raspy. Isn't that amazing? So it was literally like the only voice I could do at the time was Ginger.
Wow.
I know.
Glad we didn't lose you.
You didn't lose me. And I'm so glad I wasn't lost. Yeah, because life's been pretty amazing and horrible and wonderful and all the above. There are reasons why we're all still here.
Sure.
Like I said before, I still find it incredibly amazing that, as somebody who watched the show when I was 14, and, and just the fact that we can all come together and just talk about this show, it shows you that it still has a large impact on a lot of people, and we can talk about it and we can share stories about how it made us happy, how it made us sad, how it made us touched and cry and laugh and move, and there's so many layers to it, and I'm glad that even still to this day, a lot of our followers from iTunes or YouTube or even on our forums can be able to share their stories. We've had a lot of amazing stories from our followers.
Yeah, one from a trans woman who was really moved by just the whole coming of age plot. That was one of my favorite comments we got.
Yeah, one of my
super cool.
One of my favorite comments was a person who was never seen as told by Ginger was heavily influenced and touched by losing Nana Bishop because she went through something similar. And then, of course, I cannot tell you, when we released Hello Stranger, we got in fan art. Somebody who wrote fan fiction was told by Ginger, who hasn't done it in years, wrote a new chapter on the story. It touched so many people.
That was also around when someone drew us as the cats from Cat Scratch, but that doesn't really have anything to do with As Told by Ginger.
Which is crazy, of all of us saying our quotes from the show.
Yeah, right.
So, and it was also great to meet, that was a great setup, Patricia, to bring almost all of the storyboard artists together for one awesome interview. You guys should check that out. It's basically an hour of laughs, so these guys just sharing all their old stories.
Yeah, even, again, Mark even told me that it's crazy that, something as small as a show from Nickelodeon can be able to bring people together. As mentioned with Mark, he said that, the storyboard artists, they've gone on their separate ways and they're working on different shows. Some of them live in different states. They all came together for this one time, and now they're talking, and they, some of them actually met up for a restaurant, and they had dinner together. Cool. Aspen and Jackie, you haven't spoken in who knows how long, and then you guys reconnected forever. I would say, the day that we both interviewed you, we interviewed you, one day apart, and then, the next day, that was when you guys talked on Twitter. It's hey, we should hang out.
It was so great. And we just moved to a different house, and I was going through stuff and packing up stuff, and I found a quilt that Aspen made for my baby.
Oh man. I'm so phone. You're gonna make me cry.
I know. That's so crazy.
People loved the interviews with all of you too, because we've interviewed all of you. I think I wasn't there for Eric's and Liz's, but we've interviewed all of you now, I think, and people loved those.
I remember that day, Aspen, when you came in with that quilt, and we were all like, "You know how to quilt? How?"
Yeah.
I was an old soul.
Lunch was always our favorite. Remember lunch, planning lunch, and then the whole, what are we going to eat? And then we'd have birthdays all the time. And
We did.
I have some of those.
It was
kind of
like
have to find.
our own little. It was like our own little junior high school experience.
Yeah, it was.
Just during the recording sessions.
Yeah.
Totally
Guests
was.
would come in, and Eric would always have big, exciting news about another one of your childhood heroes coming in to do a voice.
Yeah.
I know. It was amazing how many people walked through that door. Really.
Yeah,
Oh man,
pretty crazy.
seriously, from this podcast alone, we've heard so many amazing stories. Eric, I love the story that you told about the guy coming in stills singing the little Seal Girl song. I love Mark's story was so great, in which he talked about how when he was caring for his dad in the hospital, a nurse came to him and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Risley, I have to tell you that your episode of As Told by Ginger, Hello Stranger, meant a lot to me and my daughter." And he was like shocked. It's like, how did he know who I was? So,
Wow.
There was a girl that I talked to, like, probably within the last year or two, and she said, "I can't believe you were Ginger, because when I watched that show, my parents were going through a divorce, and my mom had then decided to get remarried a year later, and I didn't know who to invite to the wedding." And she said, "Well, I'll just watch what Ginger does, and I'll do what Ginger does."
What would Ginger do?
Yeah.
Wow.
Have Courtney in the back row, apparently.
Catered? Are you kidding? She didn't get a seat.
What happened to Courtney's clothes overnight? I mean, how does that happen? I understand losing money, but you know,
yeah, I guess they had to sell them. Yeah, Blake had to sell all of his toys and his
oh my god
and his baby bracelet
and his school uniform, because Nicole Sussman wears it in that one scene.
Oh, that's right. Noelle actually wears his uniform.
She's bought the uniform.
I did not touch that. Oh my god, I have to look for that. That kills me.
It's such a great moment.
I didn't know that either. That's funny. Those are the little touches I love.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
so
Casey,
great.
I guess we can give our last ranking of the episode. So, should we give this episode a yay, a nay, or a meh?
Those are our three options. It has evolved. They have evolved over the podcast. We also have an optional super yay. I think Mark was a little upset when we didn't tell him that, and then I used it after he voted, and he was like, "Well, I would have done that."
Wait, which one? What is he a super yay on?
Oh, which episode was that? Gym Class Confidential, right?
Yes.
Yes, I think.
Who did we have Mark on for?
We had Mark on for, and she was gone.
Yep, that's right.
Oh yeah, I was
heavy.
super yay.
That's
That
heavy.
one,
That's
for sure.
heavy.
Yeah.
I'm super yaying that one.
Yeah,
me too. Super yay.
You know what?
Maybe I'm overusing them. I'm going to use super yay number 6 or 7. I can't even keep track of them anymore. But I thought this ended the series beautifully, and you can't not give the finale of a show that ended so strongly a super yay. So that's what I'm going with.
Yeah. Me too. I am going to give this episode a super yay. It's one of my top 5 favorite episodes of the series. It ended on such a wonderful note. We get to see every single character, and we get to see about what they're doing, and we get to see on a very interesting plot about Nikki LaPorte trying to sabotage Lois and Dr. Dave's wedding. We get to see the maniacal plan of Dr. Dave's mom. We see the ups and downs of every single character, and we ended on a beautiful note with everybody coming in together. And Casey, we talk about titles all the time on our show, and
yes.
I did mention to you in the very first episode of We're in Between that there's a reason why the show is called As Told by Ginger. The first reason is because Ginger's writing in her diary, but the second reason, and I can guess, that throughout the entire series, Ginger has been in the book reading off the stories of her life, and then it ends with her concluding the story. And so that's basically that Ginger is telling the audience about her life, and so that's another layer to the title of the show.
Totally. My favorite is still Dodie's big break. Just a legendary pun. Because she breaks her leg and it ends up being her big break into the cheerleading squad. I still can't get over that.
We cannot thank you enough for coming in here. This is an amazing experience. Trust me, if I would have told my 14-year-old self that I would be doing this, I would have said, "You're out of your mind." But no, this is a dream come true, and seriously, guys, thank you.
Yeah, you guys have been so generous.
Thank you for doing
It was so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for reuniting us, too.
Yeah, it's great to hear all these voices. Lots of love to all you guys.
Yeah,
You too.
You too, Eric.
I can't wait till our actual physical reunion.
I know.
I'm planning on it. I'm hoping
Physical.
if we can, I would love to see that happen. And Casey, Ashley, and I, we can do our. We'll put blood, sweat, and tears into creating a little, event for everybody to come and join. And trust me, I mean,
or like a Comic-Con panel or something.
That would be so fun.
That would be
so much fun. That's hilarious.
Oh, that would be so great if we can have a panel together.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
We can have the
Comic-Cons are happening everywhere, so it could be a As Told by Ginger Comic-Con situation. Shows from Nickelodeon from the early 2000s.
Right.
They have San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con. That would be so amazing if we can pull something together. Yeah, whatever we do, but I'm hoping that it does become a reality. But anyway,
Well, definitely keep us posted.
Count us in. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
I love you all. Thank you so much.
Love you guys.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We do have a preview. We'll be talking about the pilot next week. I believe the unaired pilot. Am I correct in that? Well, I've never seen it, so tune in for that next week.
all right. And then afterwards, we're going to be talking about the entire series, about what our favorite episodes of season 3 were, and we're going to be looking back on the show as a whole. And that should be a lot of fun. So yeah.
Then we're done.
And then we're done. Yeah.
Wow.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.